Before we dive in, a quick but important note. I am not a licensed financial advisor, and this presentation is for educational and informational purposes only. The world of real estate investing, especially house flipping, carries significant financial risk. You should always conduct your own thorough research and consult with qualified professionals, like a real estate attorney and a certified public accountant, before making any investment decisions. Your financial situation is unique, and the decisions you make are your own responsibility. Everything you've been told about house flipping is a lie. A carefully crafted, beautifully edited 30-minute lie. They show you the sledgehammer smashing through drywall, the triumphant reveal of a gleaming new kitchen, and the smiling couple high-fiving as a giant check flashes on the screen. It looks so easy, so profitable, so fun. I bought into that lie. My first flip, I stood in a gutted-out living room, staring at a bill from a plumber that was 3 times the original quote, realizing my $15,000 profit had just vanished. Then the electrician found knob and tube wiring hidden in the walls, and my profit turned into a $20,000 loss. That's when I understood. The TV shows aren't a how-to guide. They're a highlight reel. They cut out the sleepless nights, the surprise foundation cracks, the contractor who takes your deposit and disappears, and the soul-crushing reality that one bad decision can wipe out your life savings. This is not going to be one of those videos. We are not here to talk about shiplap and paint colors. We are here to talk about the truth. The goal of this video is to give you the unfiltered, unglamorous, and brutally honest playbook that separates the top 10% of flippers who build real wealth from the 90% who lose their shirts and walk away forever. We are going to rip the cover off this industry and show you the real machinery that makes it work. You're going to learn how to avoid the catastrophic beginner-level mistakes that I and so many others have made. You will learn to see a property not as a home, but as a math problem. And by the end, you will have a rock-solid foundation to decide if this business is truly for you, and if it is, how to start smart. So why do we fall for the fantasy? Because flipping taps into something deeply American. It's the dream of taking something broken and making it beautiful again. It's tangible. You can stand inside your investment, touch the walls, see the progress. It's not some abstract stock ticker on a screen. It feels real. And it promises a level of control and financial freedom that a 9-to-5 job simply can't offer. The potential to make a year's salary in a few months is an incredibly powerful lure. But that lure is also the trap. The dream is what makes people emotional. And in this business, emotion is the enemy of profit. Emotion is what makes you overpay for a house because you fell in love with its charm. Emotion is what makes you spend $10,000 on a master bathroom that will only add $5,000 in value. Emotion is what makes you hold out for an unrealistic sale price while you're holding costs. Your mortgage, your insurance, your utilities, your taxes bleed you dry one day at a time. The first, most critical lesson, the one that will save you from financial ruin before you even look at a single property, is a fundamental mindset shift. You must stop thinking like a homeowner and start thinking like a manufacturer. That's what you are. You are not building your dream home. You are not an artist creating a masterpiece. You are a manufacturer creating a product. Your product is a clean, safe, and desirable house, and your customer is a very specific buyer in a very specific market. Think of it like this. Ford doesn't build every F-150 with the personal preferences of its CEO in mind. They don't install diamond-stitched leather seats and a surround sound system that costs $20,000. Why? Because their target customer, the person who actually buys the truck, doesn't want to pay for that. They want a reliable, functional, and affordable vehicle. Ford builds to the market. You must build to the market. This is the single biggest mistake beginners make. They walk into a distressed property and say, "I would love a heated floor in this bathroom." Or, "I've always wanted a 6-burner Wolf range in my kitchen." Your personal taste is completely 100% irrelevant. In fact, it's a liability. Your job is to become an expert detective. Your mission is to find out exactly what the median buyer in that specific neighborhood wants and is willing to pay for. Nothing more, nothing less. How do you do that? You go to work. You study the recently sold comparable properties, the comps. You look at the houses in that area that sold in the last 90 days at top dollar in the shortest amount of time. You dissect them. What kind of countertops do they have? Is it granite? Is it quartz? It's probably not imported Italian marble. What kind of flooring? Is it luxury vinyl plank? Is it refinished hardwood? What color are the walls? I'll give you a hint. It's probably some shade of neutral gray or beige. You need to build a carbon copy of the most successful, most profitable product in that neighborhood. Your goal is not to be unique. Your goal is not to win design awards. Your goal is to create a house that the widest possible pool of qualified buyers will walk into and say, "This is perfect. I don't have to change a thing. I can see myself living here." When you do that, you get multiple offers. You get a fast sale, and you maximize your profit. When you install that custom tiled backsplash you saw on Pinterest, or the expensive light fixtures you fell in love with, you are shrinking your pool of potential buyers. You are injecting your personal, subjective taste into a purely financial equation. Every dollar you spend on a nice-to-have feature that the market doesn't demand is a dollar you are lighting on fire. So, your first piece of homework before you even think about calculating profits is to rewire your brain. Your new mantra is, "I am a manufacturer. I build for my customer, not for myself." Every decision, from the front door color to the cabinet hardware, must be filtered through this lens. Not "do I like this?" but "will the median buyer in this zip code pay a premium for this?" This mindset shift from personal preference to market analysis is the bedrock of a successful flipping business. It's the difference between running a professional operation and having an expensive, stressful hobby. It's the boring, unsexy work that happens on a spreadsheet, not on a demo day. And it's the only thing that will protect you from the financial carnage that awaits those who treat this business like a reality TV show. Once you have truly internalized this concept, that you are a data-driven investor, not a home decorator, only then can we begin to talk about the numbers. Because in flipping, the numbers are the only things that tell the truth. And the most important number of all is the one you must know before you ever make an offer. It's a number that dictates your purchase price, your renovation budget, and your potential profit. Get it right and you're on the path to success. Get it wrong and you've failed before you've even begun. This number is called the after repair value, or ARV. It is the single most important number in all of real estate investing. It's not an estimate, it's not a guess, and it's certainly not the Zillow's estimate. The ARV is a calculated, evidence-backed prediction of what a specific property will sell for on the open market after you have completed all your renovations. It is the North Star that guides every single decision you make on a flip. It dictates what you can offer, how much you can spend on repairs, and ultimately, whether you will make a life-changing profit or suffer a soul-crushing loss. So, how do the pros nail this number with pinpoint accuracy, while beginners get it disastrously wrong? Starts by understanding what not to do. The beginner's first mistake is emotional attachment. They walk into a dilapidated house and see potential. They see a beautiful open-concept kitchen where there's a wall. They envision a spa-like master bathroom instead of a grimy, outdated mess. Their heart starts racing, and they begin calculating their profits based on a fantasy. They think, "Oh, this will be the nicest house on the block. It'll sell for a fortune." That is a fatal error. The market doesn't care about your beautiful vision. It only cares about data. The second beginner mistake is relying on faulty tools. They pull up Zillow or Redfin, see the estimated value, and treat it as gospel. Let me be perfectly clear. The Zestimate is for entertainment purposes only. It's an algorithm that has never stepped foot in the house. It doesn't know about the foundation cracks hidden under the carpet. It doesn't know that the neighbor's house is a junkyard. And it certainly doesn't know that every other renovated house on that street used high-end quartz countertops while you're planning to use laminate. Relying on an online estimate for your ARV is like asking a magic 8-ball for stock market advice. The only way to determine a reliable ARV is through a process the pros use called running comps. Comps is short for comparables, and it is the art and science of finding recently sold properties that are as similar to your target property as humanly possible. This isn't just a casual search. It's a forensic investigation. And to do it right, you have to follow 3 golden rules: proximity, recency, and similarity. Let's start with proximity. How close does a comp need to be? The answer is, as close as possible. Ideally, you want comps within the same subdivision. If that's not possible, you expand to a quarter-mile radius, then a half-mile. But you must be incredibly careful about boundaries. A comp on the other side of a major highway, a set of railroad tracks, or even a different school district might as well be in another state. The value of a home can change dramatically from one block to the next. You are looking for homes that a potential buyer would consider indistinguishable from yours in terms of location. Next is recency. The real estate market is a living, breathing thing. It changes with interest rates, with the seasons, with the local economy. A house that sold a year ago is ancient history. A house that sold 6 months ago is getting stale. The gold standard for comps is sales within the last 90 days. This gives you the most accurate snapshot of what buyers are currently willing to pay in that specific neighborhood. If you absolutely cannot find enough comps in the last 90 days, you can reluctantly stretch to 180 days, but you must make adjustments for how the market has moved since then. Finally, and most importantly, is similarity. This is where the real skill comes in. You are trying to compare apples to apples, not apples to oranges. First, you look at the basics, the style of the house. A 2-story colonial is not a good comp for a single-story ranch, even if they're next door to each other. They appeal to different buyers. Next is the bed and bath count. A 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home is the bread and butter of the American housing market. It cannot be accurately compared to a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom or a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom home without significant adjustments. Then you have square footage. You want to find comps within about 10 to 15% of your property's size. A 1,500 square foot house doesn't compete with the 2,500 square foot house. You also have to consider other features. Does it have a garage? A basement? A pool? Each of these things affects the value. But the most critical piece of the similarity puzzle, and the one that trips up almost every beginner, is the condition. You must compare your future, fully renovated house to other fully renovated houses. You cannot look at the sale of a tired, 1980s-era home that needs a new kitchen and use it as a benchmark for your property with brand new stainless steel appliances and granite countertops. You have to find the homes that were recently flipped or are in pristine, move-in-ready condition. These are your true comps. They show you the absolute ceiling of value in that neighborhood. So you've done your research. You've scoured the MLS, Zillow's recently sold filter, and Redfin. You've found 3 to 5 rock-solid comps that obey all the rules. They're close, they're recent, and they're very, very similar. Let's say they sold for $300,000, $305,000, and $310,000. Now you have a realistic range. Your ARV is likely somewhere between $300,000 and $310,000. But we don't stop there. The pros use a system of verification. Your own research is just the first step. The second step is to bring in an expert. This means finding a real estate agent. Not just any agent, but an investor-friendly agent who understands flips. You ask them for a comparative market analysis or CMA. They will perform the same process you just did, but with better tools and a more experienced eye. They'll tell you, based on what I'm seeing, if you renovate this to a high standard, I could list it for $305,000. If their number lines up with your number, your confidence should soar. The third and final verification, the ultimate reality check, comes from the people with the money, the lenders. If you're using a hard money loan or a traditional bank loan to fund your project, they will order an independent, third-party appraisal. This appraiser's sole job is to protect the bank's investment by determining a conservative ARV. They have no emotional attachment. They don't care about your potential profit. They are a cold, calculating machine of data. When that appraisal comes back and confirms your ARV of, say, $300,000, now you have a number you can take to the bank. Literally. This three-pronged approach, your own research, an agent's opinion, and a lender's appraisal, is how you build a fortress of certainty around your ARV. You've replaced a hopeful guess with a data-driven conclusion. Remember, as a beginner, you must always be conservative. If your comps suggest a range between $300,000 and $310,000, you base all of your calculations on the $300,000 number. Hope for the best, but plan for the worst. Building in that buffer is what separates a successful long-term career in flipping from a one-and-done disaster. Now you have the most important number in flipping. The destination is plugged into your GPS. But this is only one half of the core equation. Because what good is knowing a house can sell for $300,000 if you have no idea what it will cost to get it there? The renovation budget. That's where the magic happens, where the profit is truly created, and where fortunes are most often lost. And that is exactly where we're going next. So let's talk about the renovation budget. This isn't just a spreadsheet with numbers. It's the blueprint for your profit. It's the single most powerful tool. You have to control your destiny on a project. Get it right, and you're on the path to a 5- or 6-figure payday. Get it wrong, and you're funding a very expensive, very stressful hobby. The biggest mistake I see beginners make is what I call napkin math. They walk through a house for 20 minutes, jot down a few numbers, and come up with a figure like, it probably needs about 50 grand. 50 grand based on what? Based on a feeling? Based on a TV show where they magically renovate a kitchen for $5,000? That's not a budget, that's a guess. And in the world of flipping, a guess is just a slower way to go broke. The reality is, the house you're looking at is hiding secrets from you. Every single one of them is. Behind that perfectly fine-looking drywall, there could be ancient knob and tube wiring that needs a complete $20,000 overhaul to be insurable. Beneath those ugly carpets, there might be a cracked foundation that costs more to fix than your entire planned profit margin. That faint, musty smell in the basement is an old house charm. It's a $10,000 mold remediation project waiting to introduce itself. These are the budget busters, the unknown unknowns that can turn a dream flip into a financial nightmare. So how do you avoid this? You stop guessing and you start investigating. You become a detective before you ever become an investor. Your job is to build a detailed, line-item budget that's as close to reality as humanly possible before you are legally bound to buy the property. Forget the generic per-square-foot rules you read online. The idea that a cosmetic rehab costs $25 per square foot is dangerously misleading. Is that $25 in rural Arkansas or in suburban San Diego? Does that include new windows? A new roof? Because those two items alone can eat up your entire per square foot allowance. That rule is for experienced pros who can look at a house and instantly calibrate that number in their head based on a dozen different factors. For a beginner, it's a trap. Instead, you need to build your budget from the ground up, starting with the big, scary, expensive stuff. I call these the big six: foundation, roof, HVAC system, electrical, plumbing, and windows. These are the non-negotiables. They aren't sexy, you can't feature them in your listing photos, but they are the systems that make a house livable, safe, and sellable. Before you even think about granite countertops, you need to know the condition of the big six. How do you do that during a short inspection period? You build a team. You find a trusted general contractor, a plumber, and an electrician who you can pay a few $100s to walk through a potential property with you. Think of it as a consultation fee. Paying a contractor $300 to walk through a house and tell you, the roof is shot, you're looking at 15 grand, and the main electrical panel is a fire hazard, that's another 8 grand, is the best money you will ever spend. That $300 just saved you from making a $100,000 mistake. Once you have a handle on the big structural costs, then you move to the cosmetic items. This is where you have more control, but it's also where scope creep can kill you. Scope creep is the little voice that says, you know what would look amazing here? High-end Italian tile instead of this standard stuff. Or, let's knock down this wall and create an open concept. Every one of those decisions adds thousands of dollars and weeks of time to your project. You have to be disciplined. Your budget for the kitchen should be broken down. Cabinets, countertops, backsplash, appliances, sink, faucet, lighting, labor. Each one gets a number, not a guess. Go to Home Depot's website. Price out the exact mid-grade refrigerator you plan to use. Price out the faucet. Price out the flooring per square foot. Do this for every single room, for every single finish. Paint, light fixtures, door handles, toilets, vanities. Everything. It's tedious, it's boring. But it's the work that separates the professionals from the amateurs. But we're still not done. Because there's a whole category of costs that beginners almost always forget. The invisible costs. These are the expenses that don't physically get nailed or glued into the house. First, permits. Don't think you can skip them. Trying to do unpermitted electrical or plumbing work is one of the fastest ways to get your project shut down and create a massive headache when you try to sell. Call the city building department and ask about the permit fees for your scope of work. Next, carrying costs. While you're renovating for 3 or 6 months, you're still paying for the mortgage, property taxes, insurance, and utilities on a house nobody is living in. This can easily add up to $5,000, $10,000, or even $15,000 depending on your loan and the length of the project. It needs its own section in your budget. What about dumpster fees? Or the cost of a portable toilet for your crew? Or architectural plans if you're moving walls? It all adds up. These aren't rounding errors. They are real substantial costs that can erode your profit margin until it disappears. After you've listed every single thing you can possibly think of, from foundation repair to doorknobs to the water bill, you add one more line item, and it's the most important one on the entire sheet. It's called the contingency fund. This is your oh crap fund. It's not if something will go wrong, it's what will go wrong and how much it will cost. When your contractor opens a wall and finds a massive termite colony, your contingency fund pays for it. When the copper pipes get stolen from the vacant property, your contingency fund pays for it. When your 6-week project turns into a 12-week project because of inspection delays, your contingency fund covers the extra carrying costs. For a beginner, your contingency should be a minimum of 20% of your total estimated renovation cost. If your detailed budget comes out to $80,000, you need to add another $16,000 on top of that. Your real budget is $96,000. If that number makes your deal not work, then you don't have a deal. It's that simple. Thinking you'll be the one lucky flipper who doesn't need a contingency is like thinking you can drive cross-country without a spare tire. It's not brave, it's foolish. That 20% isn't a nice-to-have. It's your survival gear. It's the difference between a learning experience and a financial catastrophe. So let's put it all together. The napkin math says $50,000. The detailed line-item budget built with input from contractors comes to $82,000. The invisible costs like permits and carrying costs add another $9,000. And your 20% contingency adds another $18,200. Suddenly, your $50,000 feeling has become a very real, very sobering budget of $109,200. That is the reality check. That is the number you use in your profit calculation. Finding the deal and analyzing the after-repair value is the fun part. It's the sizzle. But building the renovation budget, that's the stake. It's where you earn your money. It's where you prove you have the discipline and the foresight to be a real investor. Now, once you have this rock-solid budget, you face the next great fork in the road. A question that defines the entire experience of your flip. You have the what and the how much, but now you need the who. Who is actually going to do all this work? Do you put on a tool belt and do it yourself to save money? Or do you hire a general contractor to manage everything, saving your time and your sanity? This is the ultimate battle of sweat equity versus cold, hard cash, and it determines not just your profit, but your quality of life for the next 6 months. And that decision is precisely what we need to break down next. Let's start with the brutal truth. Sweat equity is not free. It's paid for with your weekends, your evenings, your strained muscles, and your sanity. Cold, hard cash buys you time and expertise, but it can evaporate in an instant if you hire the wrong people. This isn't a simple choice. It's a strategic decision that defines your entire project. Let's walk down the first path. The DIY warrior. This is the path glorified on television. You, a sledgehammer, and a can-do attitude against a house full of dated wallpaper and shag carpet. The financial appeal is undeniable. If a contractor quotes you $5,000 to tile a bathroom, and you can do it yourself for $800 in materials, you've just made $4,200, right? Not exactly. You've traded $4,200 for, let's say, 40 hours of your life. That's $105 an hour. Sounds great, but what does that 40 hours actually look like? It's not a clean 9 to 5. It's 3 hours after your real job on a Tuesday night, covered in thin-set mortar. It's all day Saturday, realizing your subfloor isn't level and spending 6 hours just trying to fix that before a single tile is laid. It's Sunday night, you're back screaming, watching a dozen YouTube videos because your grout lines look crooked. It's the second trip to the hardware store because you bought the wrong trowel, and the third trip because you cracked 3 expensive tiles making a cut around the toilet flange. The real cost of sweat equity is calculated in mistakes. A professional can tile that bathroom in 2 days. It might take you 2 weeks. That's 12 extra days of holding costs. Your loan interest, your insurance, your utilities, ticking away like a time bomb. And what if you make a serious mistake? A small leak from a poorly installed shower pan doesn't just mean redoing the tile. It means replacing the subfloor, the ceiling in the room below, and potentially dealing with mold remediation. Suddenly, your $4,200 savings has become a $10,000 catastrophe. The DIY warrior isn't just a construction worker. They're the project manager, the procurement officer, the bookkeeper, and the janitor. You are responsible for everything. This path is for people who genuinely love the work, who have a high tolerance for stress and uncertainty, and most importantly, who have more time than money. It can be incredibly rewarding, but if you romanticize it, the reality will hit you like a ton of bricks, or a pile of drywall as the case may be. Now let's walk down the other path. The project manager. This is the investor who says, "My time is better spent finding the next deal than hanging kitchen cabinets." This flipper's primary tool isn't a hammer. It's a spreadsheet, a phone, and a deep understanding of contracts and timelines. Their job is to assemble a team of professionals, a general contractor, plumbers, electricians, painters, and orchestrate them like a symphony conductor. The fantasy is that you write a few checks and a beautiful finished house magically appears in 3 months. The reality is a full-time job of a different kind. First, you have to find these magical creatures known as reliable, licensed, and insured contractors. This is a monumental task in itself. You'll need to get at least 3 bids for every major job. You'll quickly learn that the cheapest bid is often the most expensive in the long run. It's the one that leads to cut corners, endless delays, and a final product that screams amateur flip. Your life becomes a cycle of vetting. You're not just calling references, you're visiting their past job sites. You're not just checking their license online. You're verifying their insurance is active and covers their workers. You're spending hours crafting a detailed scope of work document, so there is zero ambiguity about what renovate the kitchen actually means. Does it include under-cabinet lighting? A tile backsplash to the ceiling? Soft close drawers? If it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Even with the best team, you are the ultimate quality control. You have to be on site constantly. Is that drywall seam smooth? Are those paint lines crisp? Did they install the $30 a square foot tile you paid for, or a $10 lookalike? You have to manage the timeline, ensuring the plumber isn't scheduled before the electrician has run his wires. You have to handle the inevitable surprises, the discovery of termite damage behind a wall or a foundation issue, and negotiate the dreaded change orders that can inflate your budget overnight. This path requires a significant cash reserve. You're not just paying for labor and materials, you're paying for expertise, speed, and peace of mind. A good general contractor might charge 15 to 25% of the total project cost. On a $50,000 renovation, that's an extra 10 grand or more right off the top. But that 10 grand buys you their network of subcontractors, their project management, and a single point of responsibility if something goes wrong. This path is for people who have more money than time, and who possess excellent management and communication skills. So, which path is right? The secret that seasoned flippers know is that it's almost never one or the other. The most successful beginners operate in the middle, in what I call the sweat equity sweet spot. This is the hybrid approach. It's about strategically choosing which tasks to DIY and which to hire out, creating the perfect blend of savings and sanity. So how do you find this sweet spot? You draw a hard line between tasks that are high impact and low skill, and those that are high risk and require professional licensing. Here's your DIY-friendly list. These are things you can learn on YouTube and are unlikely to cause a catastrophic failure. First, demolition. Tearing out old cabinets, non-load-bearing walls, and ripping up carpet is physically demanding but technically simple. Can save you thousands. Second, painting. A professional paint job is an art, but a good enough paint job is well within the reach of a patient beginner. The savings are massive. Third, landscaping. Spreading mulch, planting shrubs, and pressure washing can dramatically boost curb appeal for a fraction of the cost of a landscaping company. Fourth, final finishes. Installing doorknobs, light fixtures, not the wiring, just the fixture itself, cabinet hardware, and switch plate covers. These are simple tasks that make a huge difference. Now here is your do not touch list. These are the jobs you always hire a licensed professional for, no exceptions. Number 1, anything structural. Moving load-bearing walls, altering roof trusses, don't even think about it. You need an engineer and a licensed contractor. Number 2, major electrical and plumbing. We're talking moving outlets, running new lines, replacing a breaker panel, or rerouting pipes in a wall. The risk of fire, floods, and failing a home inspection is 100% not worth the savings. Third, anything that requires a permit you can't easily pull as a homeowner. This often includes roofing, window replacement, and HVAC work. Messing this up can result in fines and make the house impossible to sell. By adopting this hybrid model, you get the best of both worlds. You save a significant amount of money on the labor-intensive but low-risk tasks, which frees up cash in your budget to pay licensed professionals for the critical, high-risk jobs. You stay deeply involved in the project, learning the process, but you're not taking on the overwhelming burden of doing everything yourself. You're not just a laborer and you're not just a checkbook. You're a smart investor, leveraging your own time where it makes the most sense and leveraging a professional's expertise where it matters most. This decision, DIY, hire out, or the hybrid approach, is fundamental. It shapes your budget, your timeline, and your entire experience. But no matter which path you lean towards, you'll quickly discover that your project is only as good as the people working on it. If you're a DIY warrior, that might be the retired plumber down the street you pay for a few hours of advice. If you're a project manager, it's your entire crew. Your success doesn't ultimately depend on your ability to swing a hammer or read a spreadsheet. It depends on your ability to build a team, So you've decided how much work you're going to do yourself. Now comes the single most important question, the one that separates profitable flips from money pit nightmares. How do you actually find the honest, reliable, and talented people who will build your vision without destroying your budget and your sanity in the process? Because finding that property was hard, but building your all-star flip team? That's the real secret to winning this game. Think of it like this. You're the owner of a new professional sports team. You've just acquired the stadium, that's the house. But a stadium doesn't win championships. Players do. Coaches do. The front office does. Your success or failure in house flipping will almost never come down to the property itself. It will come down to the team you put on the field. This team will either be your greatest asset, multiplying your efforts and covering your blind spots, or it will be your single greatest liability, a constant source of stress, delays, and financial ruin. There is no middle ground. So, who is the most important player on this team? Who is your head coach, your star quarterback, and your lead strategist all rolled into one? It's your general contractor, the GC. Get this one hire right and you're halfway to a profitable flip. Get it wrong and you might as well light your money on fire right now. I'm not exaggerating. A bad contractor can single-handedly bankrupt your project and crush your spirit. The beginner's mistake is thinking the goal is to find the cheapest contractor. They get 3 bids, look at the bottom line, and pick the lowest number. This is like choosing a heart surgeon based on who's running a 2-for-1 special. It's a recipe for disaster. Let me tell you about a guy I know, let's call him Mike. First flip. He was so proud. He got 5 bids for a full gut reno, and one came in a staggering $20,000 cheaper than the rest. He thought he hit the jackpot. He signed the contract, handed over a hefty deposit for materials, and the contractor's crew showed up on day 1. They did the demolition in 2 days, tearing the place down to the studs. And then they vanished. The contractor stopped answering his phone. The 20 grand savings was gone. And now Mike's house was a hollowed-out shell, uninhabitable and unsellable. He had to hire another, more expensive and reputable contractor to fix the mess, ultimately costing him double what the highest original bid was. He lost over $50,000 in 6 months on his very first deal. His story is not unique. The cheap bid is often a mirage. It's a lowball offer to get the job, with the full intention of hitting you with a dozen unforeseen change orders later on, bleeding you dry one $500 problem at a time. Or worse, they use shoddy materials, cut corners on things you can't see behind the drywall, and leave you with a finished product that starts falling apart a month after you sell it, potentially leading to lawsuits. So, how do you find the right general contractor? You become a detective. Your first and most powerful tool is referrals. But not just from anyone. Ask people who have skin in the game. Call other real estate investors in your area. Ask your hard money lender who they trust. They won't recommend anyone who puts their investment at risk. Ask your investor-friendly real estate agent. You're looking for contractors who specialize in working with investors. They understand your goal is not to build a forever home. It's to build a quality, marketable product on a strict budget and timeline. Once you have a list of 3 to 5 names, the real vetting begins. You need to verify what I call the holy trinity of contractor qualifications: license, insurance, and references. First, are they licensed in your state and city? Don't just take their word for it. Look it up on your state's official licensing board website. An unlicensed contractor is a giant, flashing red light. It means you have zero recourse if they walk off the job. Second, insurance. They need to provide you with a certificate of insurance showing they have both general liability and workers' compensation. If they don't have workers' comp and one of their guys gets hurt on your property, you could be the one getting sued. This is non-negotiable. Third, references. And I don't mean a list of phone numbers they give you. Ask for the addresses of their last 3 completed projects and 1 project they have in progress right now. Drive by the completed ones. Do they look good? Then ask to visit the current job site. Is it clean and organized or a total mess? How does the crew interact? This tells you more than any phone call ever will. When you finally sit down to interview them, your questions should go beyond, how much will it cost? Ask them, how do you prefer to communicate? Text, email, phone call? How often will I get updates? What is your process for handling change orders? What are the most common surprises you find in houses this age in this neighborhood? A good contractor will have clear, confident answers. A bad one will be vague. Trust your gut. You are entering into a business marriage with this person. You need to know you can trust them and communicate with them, especially when things inevitably go wrong. Okay, so you found your head coach. Who's next? You need your scout. This is your investor-friendly real estate agent. And I want to stress that term, investor-friendly. The agent who sold you your primary residence, the friendly one from your neighborhood, is probably not the right person for this job. A typical agent helps people find a home to fall in love with. An investor-friendly agent helps you find a property with numbers that make sense. They understand terms like ARV, after repair value. They can walk into a dilapidated property and have a rough idea of the renovation costs. They hear about deals before they ever hit the market. They are your boots on the ground, constantly hunting for opportunities. Where do you find this specialist? The same places you look for a good contractor. Go to your local Real Estate Investors Association or REIA meeting. You'll find them there networking. Ask your hard money lender who the top producing investor agents are. A great agent will not only find you deals, but they'll also be an invaluable source of information on what buyers in that specific neighborhood are looking for. They'll tell you whether to spend money on granite or if a high-end laminate will do, whether a third bedroom is more valuable than a bigger master bath. They are your market intelligence officer. Now you have a coach and a scout. You need a banker, but not just any bank. For flips, you'll likely be working with a hard money lender. The name sounds intimidating, but it's simple. They provide short-term, asset-based loans for real estate investors. Traditional banks are slow. They can take 45 or 60 days to approve a loan, and they'll scrutinize your personal income. In a competitive market, that's too slow. A hard money lender can often fund a deal in 7 to 10 days. They care less about your W-2 and more about the quality of the deal itself. Is the purchase price low enough? Is the renovation budget realistic? Is the ARV achievable? A good hard money lender is more than a source of cash. They are a critical part of your deal analysis team. They've seen hundreds of deals and they know what works and what doesn't. If they refuse to fund your deal, you shouldn't see it as a rejection. You should see it as a massive red flag that they, an experienced professional, see a problem with your numbers or your plan. They just saved you from making a huge mistake. Building a relationship with a reliable hard money lender is one of the smartest things you can do. So you have your core trio, your contractor, your agent, and your lender. This is your starting lineup. But championship teams have a deep bench. You'll also need a great real estate attorney or title company to handle your closings, ensuring the title is clean and the paperwork is flawless. You'll want an accountant who understands real estate investing to help you navigate the tax implications and structure your business correctly. These are the specialists you bring in to execute specific plays. Building this team takes time, takes effort. It is the single most important work you will do before you ever swing a hammer. Because you are not in the house flipping business. You are in the project management and people management business. The house is just the product. Your team is your entire factory. They are the engine that will determine whether your flip soars to a massive profit or crashes and burns, taking your capital with it. So you've assembled your all-star team. They're licensed, insured, and ready to go. But what's the playbook? What's the strategy you hand them on day one? How do you know, down to the very last dollar, whether the deal in front of you is a grand slam or a catastrophic failure waiting to happen? That all comes down to the numbers. And learning how to run those numbers is the one part of this game you absolutely cannot afford to get wrong. So how do you do it? How do you analyze a deal with the cold, hard precision of a seasoned pro? It starts by understanding the single most important rule in real estate investing. You make your money when you buy, not when you sell. The profit is locked in the day you sign the purchase agreement because you bought it at the right price. Selling is just the final step where you collect the cash you already earned. Getting to that right price, your maximum allowable offer, or MAO, is a formula. It's not magic, it's not guesswork, it's just math. And it has 4 critical components you need to nail down with absolute certainty. Get any one of them wrong, and your entire project is built on a foundation of sand. The first, and arguably the most important number, is the after repair value, or ARV. This is the holy grail. It's what you believe a fully renovated, beautiful, move-in ready version of your property will sell for on the open market. This number dictates everything else. And this is the first place beginners make a catastrophic mistake. They get emotional. They fall in love with the house and think, oh, with my amazing design taste, this will be the nicest house on the block. It'll sell for a record price. That is a recipe for disaster. Your opinion doesn't matter. Your realtor's optimistic guess doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what the data says. And the data comes from comps, or comparable sales. You need to look for houses that are as similar as possible to your target property, same neighborhood, similar square footage, same number of beds and baths, that have sold within the last 3, maybe 6 months, and are in the exact renovated condition you plan to bring your house to. Not just updated. I mean new kitchens, new baths, new flooring, the works. If you're looking at a 1,500 square foot ranch, you don't compare it to the 2,500 square foot 2-story that sold down the street. It's irrelevant. You need to be brutally honest and conservative. If 3 perfect comps sold for $385,000, $390,000, and $400,000, your ARV is not $400,000. It's probably closer to $390,000. Always plan for the realistic scenario, not the best-case home run. Let's say for our example deal, we do our research and land on a rock-solid conservative ARV of $400,000. Okay, step 1 is done. Now for the second component, the one that terrifies every new flipper. The rehab budget. How much is it going to cost to transform this distressed property into that $400,000 gem? This is where the real work begins. You can't just walk through a house and say, looks like it needs about 30 grand. That's a fantasy. You need to create a detailed scope of work line by line. Start from the outside in. Roof. How many years left? Siding, any rot? Windows. Are they old single-pane energy suckers? Landscaping. Is it a jungle? Walk inside. Kitchen, is it a gut job? New cabinets, countertops, appliances, backsplash, lighting? That's $20,000, $30,000, or even more, right there. Bathrooms. Full gut or just new vanities and fixtures? Flooring. Are you refinishing hardwoods or laying down new LVP everywhere? Electrical. Is the panel ancient and unsafe? Plumbing. Are those galvanized pipes just waiting to burst? HVAC. How old is the furnace and AC unit? You have to itemize everything, every single thing, and then you have to get real quotes. Don't guess. Bring in a general contractor. Better yet, bring in 3. Get bids. See where they line up. This process alone will teach you more than a dozen books. You'll learn that moving a toilet 3 feet can cost thousands in plumbing work. You'll learn the price difference between builder-grade carpet and luxury vinyl plank. This is your education. Let's say for our $400,000 ARV house, you get detailed bids and your total estimated rehab cost comes to $60,000. Are you done? Absolutely not. Now comes the most crucial part of budgeting, the contingency fund. As I promise you, things will go wrong. You'll open up a wall and find termite damage. Your plumber will discover a cracked sewer line. The city inspector will require an unexpected upgrade to your electrical system. Surprises are the only certainty in a renovation. Your $60,000 budget must have a 15 to 20% contingency built on top of it. So, a 20% contingency on $60,000 is another $12,000. Your real rehab budget isn't $60,000. It's $72,000. You plan for the worst and you hope for the best. So now we have our ARV of $400,000 and our rehab budget of $72,000. Next up are the silent killers, the costs that bleed you dry day by day, the ones beginners always forget to account for, your holding costs and your selling costs. Holding costs are every expense you incur from the day you close on the purchase to the day you close on the sale. This includes your loan payments. If you're using hard money, this could be hundreds or even thousands of dollars a month in interest alone. It's property taxes. It's homeowners insurance. It's utilities, gas, electric, water. Because your contractors need power to run their saws and you need to keep the pipes from freezing in the winter. If there's an HOA, that's another monthly fee. You must estimate how long you'll hold the property. A typical flip might take 6 months from purchase to sale. So you calculate the monthly total of all these costs and multiply it by 6. Let's say it all adds up to $2,500 a month. Over 6 months, that's $15,000 in holding costs. That's $15,000 of your profit evaporating into thin air before you even list the house. Then come the selling costs. When you sell that beautiful, renovated house for $400,000, you don't just get a check for $400,000. The biggest chunk is real estate agent commissions. This is typically 5 to 6% of the sales price, split between your agent and the buyer's agent. On a $400,000 sale, 6% is a whopping $24,000. Then you have closing costs on the seller's side, state transfer taxes, attorney fees, title insurance, and other miscellaneous fees. A safe estimate is another 2 to 3%. Let's call it 2.5%, which is another $10,000. So your total selling costs are around $34,000. Now we have all the pieces. We can finally see the whole picture. We have our ARV $400,000, our rehab $72,000, our holding costs $15,000, and our selling costs $34,000. The final piece of the puzzle is the one that makes it all worthwhile: your desired profit. You're not doing all this work for free. You're taking a massive risk. You need to be compensated for it. A good target for a beginner on a project of this scale might be $40,000. So let's do the math. You start with the ARV and subtract everything else. $400,000 ARV minus $72,000 rehab minus $15,000 holding costs minus $34,000 selling costs minus $40,000 desired profit. That leaves you with $239,000. This number, $239,000, is your maximum allowable offer. This is the absolute highest price you can pay for this property to hit your numbers and make your desired profit. If the seller is asking $280,000, you walk away. If they're asking $250,000, you have to stick to your number and negotiate hard. If you pay even $10,000 over your MAO, that $10,000 comes directly out of your profit. There's no magic fairy that makes it appear later. You lost it the day you overpaid. This is the discipline. This is the entire game. It's not about swinging a hammer. It's about mastering a spreadsheet. Every single successful investor, from the guy flipping one house a year to the massive corporations flipping thousands, lives and dies by these numbers. They don't let emotion, excitement, or a seller's sob story influence their offer. They let the math do the talking, because the math never lies. So you found a deal, you've run the numbers, and it looks like a winner. The seller accepted your offer of $235,000. You're set to make a great profit. There's just one tiny problem: you don't have $235,000 in cash, let alone the extra $72,000 for the renovation. So how do you actually pay for this thing? The world of financing is a minefield for new investors, and using the wrong type of loan can sink your project before you even hammer the first nail. Let's break down the 3 main ways beginners get the money, and why the most obvious one is usually the worst. Your first instinct might be to walk into a big national bank, a Chase, a Wells Fargo, and ask for a standard mortgage just like you would for a house you plan to live in. This is almost always a dead end. See, traditional lenders hate risk. And a dilapidated, vacant property that you plan to tear apart is the very definition of risk to them. They'll look at the peeling paint, the busted kitchen, and deny the loan based on the property's condition. Even if the house is in decent shape, they have strict rules. They'll ask, "Are you going to live in this house for at least a year?" If you're honest and say, "No, I'm flipping it," they'll show you the door. Their loans are for owner-occupants, not investors trying to run a 6-month project. And here's the biggest deal breaker. A conventional mortgage will never give you the renovation money. They give you a loan to buy the house, and that's it. You're on your own for the other 72 grand. So, for 99% of flips, the big banks are out. This is where the real investors play. They use something called a hard money loan. The name sounds intimidating, like you're borrowing from a guy named Vinny in a back alley, but it's a standard, legitimate industry. Hard money lenders are private companies or individuals who specialize in short-term, asset-backed loans for real estate investors. Here's the difference. The big bank cares almost entirely about you. Your credit score, your income, your debt-to-income ratio. The hard money lender cares mostly about the deal. Is the property a good investment? Is there a clear path to profit? They're lending against the hard asset, the house itself. More specifically, they're lending against its future value, or what we call the after-repair value, ARV. This is a complete game changer. You don't just walk in and say, "I need $200,000. You present the entire project. You show them the purchase price, your detailed renovation budget, and the comparable sales that prove it'll be worth $350,000 when you're done. If they believe in the deal, they'll fund it. And here's the magic part. They often fund both the purchase and the renovation. A common structure is for a hard money lender to finance maybe 80 to 90% of the purchase price and 100% of the renovation costs. Suddenly, that $272,000 project doesn't require you to have $272,000 in the bank. You might only need to bring the 10 or 20% down payment, plus closing costs, to the table. This is how investors scale. This is how they do multiple deals a year. But this convenience comes at a steep price. Hard money is not cheap. A traditional mortgage might have a 6 or 7% interest rate. A hard money loan will be anywhere from 9 to 15%, sometimes even higher. On top of that, they charge points. A point is just a fee, and 1 point equals 1% of the total loan amount. So, if a lender charges you 2 points on a $250,000 loan, that's a $5,000 fee you have to pay up front at closing, just for the privilege of getting the loan. And these loans are fast and short. You're not getting a 30-year term. You're getting 6 months, 12 months, maybe 18 if you're lucky. The entire business model is built on the idea that you will get in, get the work done, and get out fast. Every single month you hold that property, that high-interest payment is chewing away at your potential profit. This is the double-edged sword of hard money. It gives you the leverage to do the deal, but it also lights a fire under you to finish. The third major financing route is private money. This is similar to hard money, but often more informal. Instead of a dedicated lending company, you're borrowing from a private individual. This could be a doctor in your town with extra cash, a seasoned real estate investor you met at a networking event, or yes, even friends and family. The terms are completely negotiable. You might find a private lender who will give you a 7% interest rate with no points because they know you, trust you, and just want a better return than they're getting in the stock market. This can be the holy grail of funding, but it carries a massive risk that isn't financial. If you borrow from your aunt and the project goes sideways, if you lose her money, you haven't just lost a loan, you've potentially destroyed a family relationship forever. If you go this route, you must treat it with even more professionalism than a hard money loan. Everything needs to be in writing, drafted by attorneys, a promissory note, a mortgage or deed of trust recorded against the property, the whole 9 yards. You have to protect your lender, and in doing so, you protect your relationship. Now, there's a critical mechanism in both hard and private money that you absolutely must understand. It's called the draw schedule. Remember how the lender agreed to fund your $72,000 renovation? They don't just hand you a check for $72,000 at closing. That would be insane. What if you took the money and flew to Vegas? They'd be stuck with a half-renovated, worthless house. Instead, the renovation funds are held in an escrow account. Your budget is broken down into phases. Phase 1 might be demolition, framing, and rough-in plumbing with a budget of say $20,000. You have to pay for that work to begin, either out of your own pocket or with a small initial disbursement. Once that phase is complete, the lender sends an inspector to the property to verify the work is done and done correctly. Only after they approve it do they release or draw that $20,000 from the escrow account to reimburse you. Then you move on to phase 2, drywall, flooring, and paint, budgeted at $25,000. You get the work done, the inspector comes, you get reimbursed, and so on. This system protects the lender, but it means you need cash on hand to float the costs between draws. You can't be living check to check. You need a buffer to pay your contractors before the lender pays you back. Running out of cash mid-project because you're waiting on a draw is a classic way that flips fail. So let's apply this to our deal. You found a hard money lender who likes your project. They offer to lend you 85% of the purchase price and 100% of the renovation costs. Their rate is 12% interest with 2 points. Let's do the math. The purchase is $200,000. They'll lend you 85%, which is $170,000. That means you need to bring the other 15%, or $30,000 as a down payment. The total loan amount will be the $170,000 for the purchase plus the $72,000 for the renovation, which is $242,000. The lender is charging 2 points, which is 2% of that total loan amount. So, $242,000 times 2% is a $4,840 fee. Add in another $5,000 or so for closing costs, appraisals, and attorney fees. So, to get this deal done, you need to show up to closing with roughly $30,000 for the down payment, plus about $10,000 for points and closing costs. Your total cash out of pocket just to get the keys is around $40,000. That's a lot, but it's a world away from the $272,000 you'd need if you were paying all cash. Now the clock starts ticking. For every month you hold the property, you owe interest. These are typically interest-only loans, so you're not paying down the principal. On a $242,000 loan at 12% interest, your monthly payment is a staggering $2,420. If your project takes 6 months, you will have paid $14,520 in interest alone. Add that to the $4,840 in points, and your total cost of borrowing is nearly $20,000. That's a huge line item in your budget that you didn't have when you were just daydreaming on Zillow. This is the reality. Leverage is a powerful tool, but it is never ever free. You've secured the funding, you've signed the mountain of paperwork, and the keys are finally in your hand. The feeling is incredible, but this is the moment the real pressure begins. You're now officially burning thousands of dollars a month. Every single delay, a contractor not showing up, a permit getting rejected, a surprise discovery behind a wall, isn't just an annoyance. It's a direct attack on your profit margin. Now you have to manage the most chaotic and unpredictable part of the entire process, the renovation itself. You're standing in the gutted shell of your investment, dust motes dancing in the single beam of sunlight cutting through the grime on the window. This is it, the moment where the numbers on a spreadsheet become sledgehammers and drywall, and you are at a critical fork in the road. This is where most beginners make their first, and often most expensive, mistake. You have two choices and neither is perfect. Path number 1. You hand the keys, the plans, and a very large check to a general contractor. Path number 2. You decide to save the money and run the entire chaotic circus yourself. This decision alone can be the difference between a $20,000 profit and a $20,000 loss. Let's talk about the general contractor, the GC. On paper, this is the easy button. A good GC is a maestro of construction. They have a vetted team of subcontractors, plumbers, electricians, painters, who they've worked with for years. They know the building codes better than you know your own social security number. They handle the permits, the inspections, the scheduling, the ordering of materials, and the daily headaches. They are your single point of contact. When the plumber doesn't show up, you call the GC, not the plumber. When the wrong tile is delivered, the GC deals with it. You are paying for their expertise, their network, and most importantly, your own peace of mind. But that peace of mind comes at a steep price, typically 15 to 25% of the total renovation cost. If your reno budget is $100,000, you're writing a check for 15 to 25 grand just for management. That's a massive slice of your potential profit, gone before a single nail is hammered. And that assumes you find a good GC. The world of contracting is littered with horror stories. Finding a great GC is like dating, you have to screen a lot of duds to find the one. Never ever go with the first bid. Or the second. Get at least 3, preferably 5. And don't just look at the price. The cheapest bid is often a giant red flag, a sign that they've missed something, are using shoddy materials, or plan to hit you with a dozen unforeseen change orders later. You need to vet them like you're hiring them to protect your family. Ask for their license and insurance and then actually verify them with the state licensing board and the insurance company. A legitimate contractor will have no problem providing this. Ask for a list of recent references, both homeowners and suppliers. And when you call those references, don't just ask, "Were you happy?" Ask the hard questions. Did they finish on budget? If not, why? Did they finish on time? How did they handle problems when they came up? Were you happy with their subcontractors? Was the job site kept clean and safe? Would you hire them again tomorrow? Call their lumber yard or main supplier and ask if they pay their bills on time. A contractor who is slow to pay their suppliers is a contractor in financial trouble, and you do not want to be their life raft. Once you've chosen one, the contract you sign is your only defense when things go wrong. A one-page estimate is not a contract. You need a detailed, legally binding document that specifies everything. It needs a crystal-clear scope of work, listing the exact materials to be used, down to the model number of the faucet and the brand of paint. It needs a payment schedule tied to completion milestones, not arbitrary dates. A huge upfront deposit is another red flag. Never pay for more than 10% or $1,000 upfront, depending on your state's laws, and never let your payments get ahead of the actual work completed. The contract must also detail a clear process for change orders. This is critical. A change order is any deviation from the original plan. If you don't have a formal process requiring written sign-off from both parties, you'll end up in a he said, she said argument over a surprise $5,000 bill at the end. Now let's look at path number 2, the siren song of self-management. You look at that 20% GC fee and think, I can do that. I'm organized. I can make a few phone calls. I'll save 20 grand. This is the DIY delusion, and it has crushed more first-time flippers than any other single factor. When you decide to act as your own GC, you are not saving money. You are trading money for your time, your sanity, and you are taking on an immense amount of risk. You are no longer just an investor. You are now a full-time project manager. Your new job description includes creating a detailed project schedule, finding, vetting, and hiring every single subcontractor yourself, coordinating the arrival of materials so the drywall isn't sitting in the rain before the roof is fixed, and scheduling them in the right order. You can't have the painters show up before the electrician has finished wiring. You can't have the flooring guys arrive when the drywallers are still making a dusty mess. It's a complex logistical dance, and you're the lead choreographer. And about those subcontractors, a good GC has a loyal crew. You have the phone book. You're a one-time customer. Who do you think that busy, reliable plumber is going to prioritize? The GC who gives him 10 jobs a year? Or you, the person he's never met who needs a single bathroom roughed in? You will often get the less reliable, less experienced, or more expensive subs who aren't busy with the big builders. You will spend countless hours just trying to get people to show up. And when they do, you are the one responsible for quality control. You have to know what a properly installed P-trap looks like. You have to be able to tell if the drywall finish is a quality level 4 or a sloppy level 2. You become the bad guy who has to tell a tradesman their work isn't good enough and they need to redo it without pay. These are uncomfortable, confrontational situations that a GC is paid to handle. And let's not forget the time. A flip that a GC could finish in 8 weeks might take you 16 weeks to self-manage, simply due to scheduling delays and your own learning curve. That's 8 extra weeks of carrying costs. 8 extra weeks of insurance, taxes, loan payments, and utilities all eating away at that 20% you thought you were saving. If your carrying costs are $3,000 a month, that 8-week delay just cost you $6,000, not to mention the opportunity cost of having your capital tied up for twice as long. Suddenly, saving that 20 grand GC fee doesn't seem so clear-cut. For most beginners, especially on their first few flips, hiring a thoroughly vetted general contractor is the smarter, safer bet. Think of that fee not as a cost, but as an insurance policy against your own inexperience. You can learn by watching them. Ask questions. Understand their process. Maybe on your 5th flip, you'll have the experience and the network of subs to try a hybrid approach, managing the cosmetic finishes yourself while hiring a pro for the major mechanical and structural work. But going from zero to running the entire show is a recipe for burnout and financial disaster. The renovation is the heart of the flip. It's where you physically create the value. But it's also a minefield of scheduling conflicts, budget overruns, and human error. Choosing how to navigate this phase correctly is paramount, because once you've managed the people and the schedule, you have to turn your attention to the 1,000 tiny decisions that make or break your final profit, the design choices themselves. What color should the cabinets be? What kind of flooring offers the best return? How do you create that wow factor without spending a fortune and over-improving for the neighborhood? That's where the art meets the science, and it's our next great challenge. This is the phase where fortunes are made or lost, not with a sledgehammer, but with a spreadsheet and a design magazine. The single biggest mistake a new flipper makes is designing the house for themselves. They walk in and say, "I've always wanted a dark blue dining room," or "a 6-burner professional wolf range would be perfect here." Stop. This is not your home. It is a product. And your job is to design that product for the broadest possible segment of your target market. So how do you do that? You become a detective. Before you approve a single paint color, you need to be an expert on your local market. Go on Zillow, on Redfin, and look at every single recently sold home in a half-mile radius that's been updated. Not the ones that have been sitting on the market for 90 days. The ones that sold in a weekend with multiple offers. What do they have in common? Are the kitchens all white shaker cabinets with quartz countertops? Is the flooring luxury vinyl plank throughout the main living areas? What color are the walls? It's not about copying them exactly, but about understanding the uniform that buyers in this neighborhood expect. If every updated home has stainless steel appliances and you install white ones to save a few $100, your house will instantly look dated and cheap. The market has already told you what it wants. Your job is to listen and deliver a better version of that. This data-driven approach dictates your budget. Remember that 70% rule? Your renovation budget is a fixed number derived from that calculation. You don't have unlimited funds. So, you have to focus your money where it generates the highest return on investment. The undisputed champions of ROI are kitchens and bathrooms. A minor kitchen remodel, we're talking refacing or painting cabinets, new countertops, a new backsplash, and new hardware, can recoup over 80% of its cost at resale. A bathroom remodel is right behind it. These are the emotional centers of a home. Buyers fall in love with kitchens and primary bathrooms. Conversely, some of the worst ROI projects are the ones that seem glamorous. Adding a swimming pool? You'll be lucky to get back 50% of what you put in. High-end landscaping? It looks great, but it doesn't add as much value as a new shower. The key is to spend money on things people see and touch every single day. Fresh paint has an almost infinite ROI. It costs little but completely transforms a space. New light fixtures and ceiling fans? Huge impact for a few $100s. New hardware on all the doors and cabinets? It's like jewelry for the house. It makes everything feel more expensive and cohesive. Now for the art part. Knowing you need to update the kitchen is the science. Making that kitchen feel special on a budget is the art. You don't need custom cabinetry. A set of in-stock white shaker cabinets from a big box store can look $1 million if you pair it with a stunning but affordable subway tile backsplash laid in a herringbone pattern. Add some sleek modern black hardware and a gooseneck faucet, and suddenly your budget kitchen feels like a custom design. The wow factor isn't about spending the most money. It's about making smart, impactful choices. Create a focal point. In the living room, maybe it's an old fireplace that you retile with modern large format tile. In the bathroom, it's a double vanity with cool vessel sinks you found on sale. These are the things that stick in a buyer's mind after they've seen 10 other houses. And please, for the love of all that is profitable, understand the power of light and color. Dark, chopped-up rooms feel small and depressing. Your default setting should be light and bright. Use a consistent, neutral color palette throughout the house. A light grayish, a warm white, a soft beige. These colors create a seamless flow and make the entire house feel larger. They also act as a blank canvas, allowing potential buyers to imagine their own furniture and their own lives in the space. If you paint a room hot magenta because you think it's fun, you've just forced every potential buyer to mentally factor in the cost and hassle of repainting. You've created an objection, not a feature. This brings us to the cardinal sin of flipping: over-improving for the neighborhood. Every neighborhood has a price ceiling. It's the maximum amount a bank will appraise a home for in that area, no matter how nice it is. You could put solid gold faucets and Italian marble floors in a 1,200 square foot house, but if the most expensive house on that street ever sold for is $350,000, you will never ever sell yours for $500,000. You'll have the nicest house on the block that nobody can get a loan for. I knew a flipper, let's call him Dave. Dave bought a solid little starter home in a working-class neighborhood, but he got emotionally attached. He started seeing it as his masterpiece. He installed a professional-grade Viking range, a Sub-Zero fridge, and custom-built walnut cabinets. The kitchen alone cost him $75,000. The finished house was breathtaking. It was also priced $100,000 higher than anything else in the area. Buyers would walk in, their jaws would drop at the kitchen, and then they'd see the price and walk right back out. They loved it, but they couldn't justify paying a luxury price for a home surrounded by modest properties. Dave sat on that house for 8 months, bleeding money on holding costs, before finally selling for a small loss. He didn't build a product for the market. He built a monument to his own ego. Don't be Dave. Once the dust has settled, the paint is dry, and the contractors are gone, you have one final critical step before you list the property: staging. An empty house feels cold, confusing, and small. Buyers can't figure out if their sofa will fit in the living room, or if a king-size bed will work in the primary bedroom. Staging isn't about fooling people. It's about helping them. It's about showing them the home's potential and selling them a lifestyle. According to the National Association of Realtors, 82% of buyers' agents said staging a home made it easier for a buyer to visualize the property as their future home. Staged homes also sell significantly faster and for more money than their empty counterparts. You don't necessarily need to hire a professional stager and bring in $20,000 worth of furniture, especially on your first few flips. You can do what's called light staging. Rent a few key pieces: a sofa and a coffee table for the living room, a small dining set, a bed with beautiful fresh linens for the primary bedroom. Add some art on the walls, place a few plants around, and make sure the bathrooms have fluffy white towels and a new bar of soap. These small touches transform a sterile construction site into a warm, inviting home. It's the final layer of polish that makes your product irresistible. You've taken a wreck and turned it into a gem. You've navigated the contractors, the budget, and the design choices. The house looks incredible. It's staged to perfection. Now comes the moment of truth. How do you take this finished product and turn it into a massive check? How do you price it, market it, and negotiate the sale to maximize every last dollar of profit? Getting the house ready was the semi-final. Selling it is the Super Bowl. And in the Super Bowl, you don't just wing it. You come in with a playbook, a strategy for every possible scenario, because one fumble, one missed field goal, can cost you the entire championship. All the blood, sweat, and capital you've poured into this project for months now culminates in this final high-stakes phase. This isn't just about selling a house. It's about executing a flawless exit strategy that protects and maximizes your profit. Get this wrong and your six-figure payday can evaporate into a five-figure headache, or worse, a devastating loss. The art of the sale breaks down into three critical pillars: pricing, presentation, and negotiation. Think of them as your offense, your defense, and your special teams. You need all three to be world-class to win. Let's start with your offense. The price. This is single-handedly the most important decision you will make, and it's where 90% of new flippers completely drop the ball. Their fatal flaw is thinking with their heart and their spreadsheet, not with the market's brain. They look at their total investment, the purchase price, the renovation costs, the unexpected plumbing disaster, the holding costs, and they say, I need to get at least this much to make it worthwhile. That is a losing mindset. The market does not care what you spent. It doesn't care about your plumbing disaster, or how much you love the backsplash you chose. The market only cares about one thing. What is a similar updated house in this exact neighborhood worth right now? This is where you have to surgically remove your ego from the equation and trust the data. Your real estate agent is your offensive coordinator. Their comparative market analysis, or CMA, is your playbook. It shows you what has actually sold in the last 90 days, not what your neighbor is hopefully listing their house for. Active listings are just your competition's dreams. Sold properties are reality. A house is only worth what a buyer is willing to pay for it, and the best predictor of that is what other buyers have recently paid for similar homes. The pro-level strategy, and this might sound crazy, is often to price the house slightly aggressively. Not low, but just a hair under the absolute top of the market. Why? Because you're not trying to catch one perfect whale of a buyer. You're trying to create a feeding frenzy. A price that looks like a fantastic deal will bring dozens of buyers through the door in the first weekend. It generates buzz, excitement, and most importantly, multiple offers. When buyers feel competition, they stop thinking about how low they can go and start thinking about how high they need to go to win. This is how you get offers that are $10,000, $20,000, even $50,000 over your asking price. You create a psychological auction. Overprice it by just 5% and the opposite happens. You get crickets. The house sits. After 2 weeks, it gets a stigma. Buyers and their agents see it's been on the market for 21 days and think, what's wrong with it? Then you're forced to do a price drop, which looks like desperation. You've lost all your leverage. The sharks start circling, ready to lowball you. That initial pricing decision sets the entire tone for the sale. Get it right and you're playing offense. Get it wrong and you're on defense for the rest of the game. Next up, presentation. This is your defense. It's about making your product so undeniably perfect that buyers have nothing to object to. The renovation is done, but the house isn't ready. Not even close. The number one non-negotiable investment at this stage is professional staging. I cannot stress this enough. An empty house feels cold, sterile, and small. Buyers can't visualize their life in an empty box. They can't figure out if their king-size bed will fit in the master or where the sofa should go. Staging does that work for them. It injects warmth, emotion, and purpose into every room. It turns a structure of drywall and flooring into a place someone can call home. It's the single highest ROI investment you can make in the selling process. A few $1,000s on staging can easily add $20,000 to the final sales price and cut your time on market in half. Once it's staged, you bring in the second part of your defensive line: professional photography and videography. Your iPhone is not good enough. Your online listing is the first showing. It's the digital curb appeal. Bad photos will get you swiped left into oblivion. A professional real estate photographer understands wide-angle lenses, lighting, and composition to make rooms look bright, spacious, and inviting. They'll give you those stunning twilight shots that make the house look like it's on the cover of a magazine. A 3D Matterport tour and a cinematic video walkthrough are no longer luxuries. They are standard expectations for a premium property. You are selling a high-value asset. You need a high-value marketing package to match. Finally, the third pillar: negotiation and closing. This is your special teams unit, coming in at critical moments to execute under pressure. When the offers start coming in, you don't just blindly accept the highest number. A savvy flipper and their agent analyze every component of the offer. Is it a cash offer? That's the gold standard. No financing or appraisal contingencies means a faster, more certain close. Is it a conventional loan with 20% down? That's very strong. Is it an FHA loan with 3.5% down? That's weaker, as FHA appraisals and underwriting can be much stricter. You look at the contingencies. An inspection contingency is standard, but is the buyer asking for a 10-day window or a 17-day window? Shorter is better. You look at the proposed closing date. Can they close in 21 days, or are they asking for 45? Every extra day is more holding costs bleeding from your profit. A $60,000 profit on a 45-day close is less profitable than a $58,000 profit on a 21-day close. You have to do the math. This is where a good agent earns their commission 10 times over. They'll help you counteroffer strategically, maybe asking a buyer to waive the appraisal contingency or increase their earnest money deposit to show they're serious. When you have multiple offers, you can orchestrate a highest and best deadline, forcing everyone to put their absolute best foot forward, and creating an auction-like environment that drives the price sky high. Then comes the final hurdle, the buyer's inspection. I promise you their inspector will find things wrong. It's their job. They will generate a 40-page report with pictures of everything from a loose doorknob to a piece of cracked siding. Do not panic. Do not get emotional. The buyer doesn't expect you to fix everything. They're looking for major issues, structural, safety, or functional problems. You must be prepared to negotiate. Offering a small credit or agreeing to fix a few reasonable items is a standard part of the game to keep the deal together. Letting a $100,000 sale fall apart over a $500 plumbing repair is the definition of letting your ego destroy your business. And then, after all the back and forth, you arrive at the closing table. You sign a mountain of paperwork. The attorneys and title agents do their work. And then it happens. The wire transfer hits your bank account. It's a surreal moment. All those months of demolition dust, contractor headaches, budget overages, and sleepless nights are suddenly transformed into a single number in your account. That is the win. But here's the final, most important truth about house flipping in the USA. The number you see on TV, the gross profit, is a fantasy. From that massive wire transfer, you still have to deduct your agent's commissions, typically 5 to 6%. You have to pay your side of the closing costs and transfer taxes, another 1 to 2%. And then the big one, capital gains taxes. Because you held the property for less than a year, that profit will be taxed as ordinary income at your highest marginal tax rate, which can be anywhere from 25 to over 40% depending on your income and state. That $100,000 profit can very quickly become a $55,000 net take-home. This is why knowing your numbers with absolute precision from day one is the only thing that matters. House flipping is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It is a business. A difficult, capital-intensive, high-risk business. It will test your patience, your resolve, and your stomach for risk. But if you survive that first flip, you walk away with something far more valuable than the check. You walk away with an education that is priceless. You've built a system, a team, and a deep understanding of how to orchestrate this incredibly complex process. The real money in flipping isn't made on the first deal. It's made on the 5th, the 10th, the 20th. When you're running multiple projects, your systems are dialed in, and your team operates like a well-oiled machine. You're not just flipping a house, you're building a business brick by brick, deal by deal. It will be one of the hardest things you ever do. But if you treat it with the respect it deserves, if you master the numbers, and you play the game with a clear strategy from acquisition to sale, you can build an empire. Now go build yours.